in our gospel, Jesus clearly wants us to be a tree that bears good fruit. And so that means that, we should live virtuous lives. And virtuous lives means the way we worship and the way we treat our neighbors should be good. And he's saying, we don't just say that we're Christians. We have to act like we're Christians. We have to walk the talk that we say that we're Christians. Others bear good fruit, not just look like a good tree, actually be virtuous. And an example of that just happens to be in our first reading from St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians, how to be virtuous in worship and also in action. And St. Paul starts off that reading from Corinthians by comparing the sacrifice, the burnt offering that's made to idols, to the Eucharistic meal. And so the offering made to idols is roasted animal flesh, and it's offered to an idol, which St. Paul refers to as a demon, whether it's Zeus or Aphrodite or Hermes, whatever false idol that they're worshiping there. Whereas when we participate in the Eucharistic meal, God comes into us. We take God's body, blood, soul, and divinity into us when we receive the Eucharistic meal. God became man so that we could become gods. It's something you could contemplate the rest of your life, what a wonderful gift it is. And so Paul is saying, hey, there's no comparison, between the two sacrifices. So the situation Paul was in was he's the apostle to the Gentiles, the apostle to the pagans. And so he's in pagan territory where they have all these, temples to pagan gods. And he's evangelizing. He's getting pagans to convert to Christianity. And he's got some Christians that are all in, and some that are still have their feet in both worlds. And he's telling them, you got to choose. You can't just, take part in the Eucharistic sacrifice and in the sacrifice to idols. You got to choose. It can't be one or the other. And so that's the strong message he's given to the converts, the Gentile converts that he had. Now it's interesting, Paul also goes into a lot of that meat that was sacrificed to idols ends up in the marketplace being sold. And Paul says, well, a Christian could take that meat and eat it, no problem, because he knows that it's just flesh of an animal and there's nothing special about it, and he can get protein that way and eat it. On the other hand, he says, if somebody that's not fully in as Christian, somebody that's got their feet in both worlds, sees him doing that, and maybe, think then that it's okay to sacrifice idols because of witnessing him eating the meat sacrificed to idols, then he should abstain. And Paul would abstain from that himself because of the people whose conscience wasn't fully formed. He doesn't want to lead them astray. And it's kind of like a moral issue there to look at. I have a couple of examples to think about that a little more. I have a brother that's a biomedical engineer, and one day a week he goes to Chicago and he runs a gait lab. For Shriners Children's Hospital, okay? So they work with children with cerebral palsy, and he helps diagnose treatments for children with cerebral palsy and helps them out. And after a couple of years working there, he realized that, a Catholic cannot become a Shriner because they have these rites and secret things that go on, and the Catholic Church says, Catholics can't do that. And so then he started worrying about, so was it okay for me to even work with them? Is that right? And after consulting several religious authorities, the answer was, if you're working shoulder to shoulder with somebody doing the good, then that's okay. If he's, both are working to help children learn that have some sort of disability walk, then that's a good thing. You can work with that. But if he begins to say, well, I want to be accepted with the crowd, and he goes and becomes a Shriner, and he participates in their secret stuff, even knowing that it's not real, because it's, you know, it's not the true faith, but it leads others astray, because seeing him do that, then he shouldn't associate with the Shriners like that, see. And there was another one that I ran across, this is the last example I gave you of that, in a commentary I read last night. And so let's say there's a group of atheists, and they're trying to end racism. And working next to them or with them to end racism is a good thing. That can't be criticized. That's a good thing. If, however, that relationship leads to where you show an indifference to religion, and it doesn't matter where, say, a neophyte would think that, you know, you don't really, it doesn't matter. It's one, you know, that's their choice. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And, you know, I'm Christian. Then that's wrong, because it leads other people astray. So there's sort of that moral issue that Paul started and that is talking about in today's letter to the Corinthians. So where does all this lead? The greatest relationship, the greatest thing you and I have is our relationship with Jesus. And it's manifested in the Eucharist that we receive. And we don't want to do anything to jeopardize that relationship, not only for ourselves, but others who look to us for example. We don't want to jeopardize or confuse them, mix up their conscience. Amen.